Was living in one of the original single wides while building our house. There was a good amount of snow on the ground and it was about 3 at night. Every sound was amplified. Neighbor's dog was an outside dog with a heated house. It barked all the time. If a dog barks for 5 minutes or longer you can log it. When you turn the log in, a judge can charge them $50 per incident. I was up to 20 to 30 logs a day lasting 5 minutes to a couple hours. I wasn't even home all day. She was super poor and I didn't want to go this route. After 3 weeks of my husband and I getting no sleep, we had begun to fight a lot and I wasn't getting anything done because of being sleep deprived. I was daydreaming of tackling the dog and putting a shock collar on it. In the end, every time the dog barked at night I would put on a sweatshirt, crunch 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 my way to her house, and bang on the door until she answered. Her, what? Me, your dog's barking. Her, oh, I didn't hear him. Me, turn and leave. By the third time she answered her door. Me, your dog's barking. Her, why do you keep doing this? Me, it's not my dog. It's yours. If I'm up because it's barking, so are you. I haven't slept in over 3 weeks. This is how neighbors get murdered. It took her 4 nights to break and do something about her dog. A couple times I had to pound on the door for several minutes with my breath freezing in my lungs, but it was worth it. So, I was mailing a card that I bought in store, filling out an address off to the side of the postal clerk's counter, where people usually do that. This lady gets into the wrong line for Canada Post. The nice, older clerk very politely says, "Excuse me miss, the lineup for the post office is down aisle 5. So, the lady goes, sees the 8-person line, comes back up and starts yelling at the clerk, about the signage not being clear that the lineup was in aisle 5. The clerk was trying to be kind and this woman calls her a stupid idiot. At which point I yell, "Hey, she doesn't need to take your shoot, either get in line or get the flip out of the store." She goes on a rant, we exchange more words, then she yells, "I want to speak to your manager." I calmly say, "I don't work here, beat it, ha." She pivots and speed walks out of the store yelling "stupid idiot" on her way to the door. So satisfying, but fully expected a parking lot fight when I left the store. My daughter loves to shop for gifts for people. I was thrilled to take her to the store. Masks and distancing and hand sanitizer in abundance, so she could buy gifts for her mom and 2 grandmothers. She wanted to buy flowers for everyone, but didn't want to buy real flowers, which might die, for her grandmas, edited to avoid awkwardness, so she picked out fake flowers in pretty little plastic vases. One is extra patriotic for her grandma on her mom's side. I was very proud of her, she put a lot of thought into what to buy them. So I get home and my wife says, "You know what those are used for, right?" No, apparently I don't. They are the vases with little spikes on them that go by gravestones. Whoops. To her grandma's credit, they have taken it in stride and had a nice laugh about it. Nevertheless, I should have been paying more attention and not taken the remotest chance that my daughter could send quite the morbid message to her aging grandparents, lol. Thanks for reading. DL, Doctor, my daughter bought fake flower gravestone arrangements for her grandmothers who are both very much alive, for Mother's Day. Our normal Na is severely sick, so I was asked to cover. I'm currently on unemployment, so I checked to see if working a day will affect me greatly. Turns out I just need to claim the hours worked on Lee next certification day, so here I am at work. Had a guy call around 11:30 p.m., wanting to cancel a stay next week. I get his name and confirmation number, and wouldn't you know it? Turns out he made an advance deposit, which is non-refundable. When these are made, a point to the guest is made that there are no refunds. He explained that since our pool and exercise rooms are closed, we are actively breaking the law and not honoring a contract we sent him. I calmly explained to him that since COVID-19 in our area is still a fairly prominent threat, we had to close these facilities, as well as our kitchen. He didn't like this answer and said we, and I quote, owe him for causing emotional distress. I like to think I'm a patient person. I told him I'm not canceling or refunding his stay, as I have no power to do so even if I wanted to, and I really don't want to. He could call Monday morning when our GM is in. He then threw out the wonderful phrase, "I get if I sue you guys, you'll give me what I want." To say I have waited for so long to hear those words is an understatement. I could feel the smirk cracking on my face. Unfortunately, since you wish to discuss legal matters, I'm afraid I must end our call. You may speak with the general manager as in Monday. Have a great night. Click. Haven't heard back yet. Edit, Ty for pointing out the typo. Edit 2, Since I didn't include it, he booked 3 days ago and our booking pages state our facilities are limited. The prices definitely reflect this as they're almost half off. This happened a few months back, but I am still moderately embarrassed by it. This will be short and sweet. It was a typical laundry day. I was on my last load of laundry and noticed that I was running low on detergent. The detergent I had been using was my absolute favorite. It smelled like heaven and came in a big container, so it always lasted for a while. My memory is not the greatest, so for things I don't buy often I always take pictures of the labels for my next shopping trip. Per usual, I took a picture of this label to make sure that I could buy the same exact kind at the store later. In doing so, I reread the label and just happened to notice the words liquid fabric conditioner. I thought to myself, what an unnecessarily fancy way to label laundry detergent. I turned it over. It read, Step 1, add detergent. Step 2, add fabric conditioner. Yes, for the past year, I had been washing my clothes with fabric softener. Not detergent. I am not proud. DL, doctor, for the past year, I have been washing my clothes with fabric softener instead of laundry detergent. It's been the story of the last couple weeks now, but everyone is afraid to go to their doctors. Can't even call them anymore for some reason. I had a patient come in yesterday and tell me he wants to buy an inhaler. I ask if he has an RX and do all the proper things. He doesn't have one. I explain we need one to do anything for him. He says he has a doctor he can call, but instead of picking up his phone he just goes down a list of meds asking if I'd let him buy them. I just got so flustered I just simply said, if it's not out in the aisles then I'm not gonna sell it to you. Just call your doctor. Then he sat in my waiting room for 20 minutes staring at our counter as if something magical was about to happen and I would just hand him a bag of inhalers and pills. This was years ago. I must have been maybe around 21. I was waiting for a bus and this other girl at the stop/shelter struck up a conversation with me. Can't remember the specifics, it was just small talk about music we liked, what was going on around the city, places we went, stuff like that. She was smiling and chatty, and it's not like I frequently had people I didn't know come up to me being genuinely friendly and wanting to talk, so I just rolled with it. At some point she casually mentions a guy she is dating but who's away, hence why she was out doing whatever, I forget, by herself. The bus comes and I mention the direction I'm heading in. She's going to the same area, so we both went and sat next to each other near the back and carried on talking. About 20 minutes later the bus gets to her stop. Now her stop is the stop before the one I was originally headed to and they're only about 200 yards apart. You can also get to where I was going by getting off at this stop and walking a slightly different way, without it being really any longer. So seeing as we're still having a pleasant chat, I get up and walk off the bus with her. She says, "But this isn't your stop?" And I, not thinking anything of it, just said, "No worries, it is now." Now my mistake at this point is that I assumed she was as familiar with the area as I was and knew that me getting off here wasn't making any significant difference to my journey and that the direction we were both walking was still a perfectly good way of getting to where I told her my destination was. So I just carried on our conversation walking alongside her on the pavement. At this point she starts talking about her boyfriend again, and unfortunately it still doesn't twig for me what's happening. I wasn't interested in her in that way, nothing I'd said at any point had been flirty or suggestive. If there was anything which could be construed that way, I don't know what it was, and it wasn't intentional. So I'm just like, "Oh yeah, that's nice, you have a good boyfriend, shame he's not around at the moment." It's when she then looks visibly very edgy, starts walking a bit faster and tells me her boyfriend makes her feel safe because he's a big guy who knows how to beat you up if you mess with his stuff, that it suddenly dawns on me. She thinks I'm a creep who's deliberately following her into the quieter side streets. Cue a very hasty finger point across the road to a junction. Yeah, I have to go this way now, nice to meet you. For me, which in hindsight probably did nothing to convince her I'm not a creep rather than one who just got scared off and I'm gone, feeling a little mortified for both her and me. So dear girl from the bus stop, if for no other reason than saving me from a little red-faced shame, let's not meet again. This is the first year that I haven't been able to spend Mother's Day with my mom. I moved away and due to COVID and working at a hospital, I refuse to go home to expose my family to whatever I may be carrying from the hospital. Anyway, last week I was strolling through Target and the card section caught my eye. I thought it'd be nice to send my mom a card for Mother's Day since I can't be with her. I pick out a card with a cute otter, her favorite animal. I sign it and mail it to her. My mom got the card and sent me a text, "Thanks for the Easter card." I responded, "You mean Mother's Day card?" She proceeded to send me a picture of the front of the card, which has an otter with bunny ears and Easter eggs on its belly. while the inside says have an utterly fantastic Easter. Within 2 hours of receiving the card and thanking me for it, she told our whole extended family about it. Now I will never live this down. TL, Dr. I was trying to be nice and send my mom a Mother's Day to only send her an Easter card. So during quarantine, I wanted to start exploring healthier recipes for my family. They were very excited about the idea and said that they would help in buying me ingredients for the cooking. However, within the first week of starting with healthy eating, they start cheating already. They said that my meals were good, and that they would eat it again. But they would get so little of it and say that they're already full. And then they'd get an unhealthy snack later on like chocolate, cookies, or a lot of nuts, which is very high in calories. I always tell them how many calories are in those treats and they know their daily caloric target, but they just won't listen. They say they need a cheat, or that they're craving it really badly, or that they need to relieve a bit of stress from work. They also like to order food and eat it on top of what I prepare. And then they come to me and tell me that they are gaining weight and my plan is not working. I'm just frustrated, and I hate that I can't do much about it. I'm not the parent, so it's not like I can force them into a healthy lifestyle. I can't get mad at them because I'm the child. So this happened some years ago, but I think it's always a good time to tell the story. Also, English is not my main language, so I ask you a little patience with that. I had met my GF some months before the summer. We were both living with our parents and were tremendously eager to finally have some time alone. Fortunately, one of my GF's aunts was about to go on vacations, so we thought it would be a good idea to ask her to stay in her house. We would also watch over it and let her know everything was okay. Seemed like a win-win situation. By coincidence, it was her aunt's 78th birthday the day just before her trip, so we thought it would be kind to organize a birthday party with the family, as we knew she would enjoy that. I didn't know anyone from my GF's family, her aunt included, so I was a little bit nervous, especially since I'd be staying in that house for the next days. My GF said it would be okay as long as I smiled, made some small talk, some safe jokes, and follow her lead. The day comes and I found out her family is amazing and they even seem to like me a lot. Maybe I got a little bit lax by the end of the day, and that's when I flipped up. When they were preparing the cake, they put 2 big candles with the 7 and 8. I was obviously a little bit away from the table, in about a 45 degrees angle, so the 8 was cut in half in what reads as a 3, not an 8. I thought it was her 73rd birthday. So I seized the opportunity to make a little joke and compliment the lady, by saying the candles were probably on the wrong order. Everyone stood in silence as I wondered how big my flip-up was. In shock, I decided to double-check just to find I just said the lady appeared to be 9 years older instead of 36 years younger. Fortunately, the lady immediately took that as a joke, and a huge laughter exploded in the room. No harm done. To this day I still remember this and to look carefully at the darn candles every time I'm on a birthday party. DL, Doctor, I looked at 2 birthday candles numbered 78 and a 45 degrees angle, so I read 73, and decided it would be nice to say candles were on the wrong order. A couple years ago, when I was working for my then local library, I was on the phones, up at the front desk. Our library is the biggest branch and is the busiest because of that. So we're never surprised when we get calls, but I was surprised when a lady started screaming at me in Spanish, repeating, agua, agua. You don't need to be fluent to know she wanted water. For something? So I tried calming her down, obviously saying, no español, no habla español, but she is just not hearing it. So she grabs someone who speaks English, and she starts screaming at me, "Why did you turn our water off? We paid this month." I tried to explain, "I'm so sorry about that. But I actually work at the _ library." "No you don't." At that point I had to take a second and try not to laugh at this poor lady, and I looked up the phone number for _ county utilities. I actually do work at the library, but here's the number for the utilities company, why don't you try calling them? Now, keep in mind, there are prompts to get to front desk personnel. There's an automated Spanish line. For a library, they had to get past all the prompts, including the Spanish prompt to get to a live person. I already called that number and that's how I got to you. Highly doubtful, since the phone numbers are extremely different, save for the area code, but okay. Just try it again, and if you're still having problems, feel free to call our phone number again and we can try to help you out more from there. You can't transfer me? No, the flip I cannot. Unfortunately no, since we don't have a transfer number for that completely different county office, but I can give you their phone number again if you didn't write it down. And then she hung up. And we didn't hear from her again, so I'm assuming she got to the utilities. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical TJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee. Cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about DJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ, and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. We are doing the drive-through only model with reduced hours per COVID. The new hours are posted on our website, Google search, signs on the doors, etc. The first week after the hours changed we kept taking customers who were lining up outside a little later but informing them of the change. After that we would put cones out behind the last car in line at closing time. Upper management said we can't do that anymore. Next we had someone in the parking lot telling cars that got in line after closing they'd have to come back the next day. Upper management said no to that solution as well. I'm now being told to pay attention to last car in line at closing, let the teller team know, and tell them to apologize to anyone who pulled up after, who has potentially been in line already for 20 to 30 minutes by the time they get to the window, that we can't help them. Obviously this results in the teller line and myself ending our day getting berated repeatedly. I'm interested to hear what you guys are doing at your branches in similar situations to stop taking transactions. First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And #X200B. Me, okay, tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room, you know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no, I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the EMTs got there, let alone even go look at her. And #X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. My ex literally won't stop harassing me. I spent 6 months taking care of this man-child. He sexually abused me, took all the money I had to my name, constantly talking to other women behind my back. He would deal and do tons of drugs around me and become even more violent and even broke my ankle. I was scared to leave because I thought he would try to hunt me down. Eventually I got the strength to leave and never looked back. Fast forward to almost 2 months being gone and he won't leave me alone. Has tried to hack every online account I've had. Lied about things I've owned for years being his and saying I stole them. I have all the receipts to the things has claiming are his. He's sending me emails daily telling me to kill myself and saying I'm the reason a close friend of mine killed himself. I've tried contacting local police, But they aren't taking me seriously because this is all online. Even though Hess a felon with a pretty serious record. Hess on probation for a violent gun charge, but it doesn't matter. This human shoot stain has been nothing but a thorn in my side because he has no life. Supposedly he's living off a 40-year-old Russian chick and she's giving him money and resources to sit there and flip with me all day. I am at a loss for what to do other than to warn other girls not to get involved. He will give you sob stories about how he was abused and used by every one of his exes. Even claiming one groomed him into the sex trade. He lives in Minnesota, more than likely Minneapolis now. Whatever you do, stay away. He will more than likely do to you what Hess doing to me when you leave because you realize what a parasite he is. Thought you guys would appreciate this on Mother's Day. I am in a small family Italian diner. Chalkboard menu which changes every day, huge portions of fresh food, mom is the server, dad in the kitchen, checker tablecloths, wine in a jug, you know the type of place. I walked in for the first of many times, 2 tables of firemen, 1 tables of obvious cops, 1 in uniform. Me and my teenage son. Mom comes over, puts a plastic bib on us, takes a drink order. In walks 2 guys in expensive suits, puts bib on one, the other one blocks her. Says, "Do I look like a guy who spills on myself?" She shrugs and, takes drink order, walks away. Comes and takes our lunch order, brings it to the back. Then asks the suit guys if there were any questions on the menu. No bib guy says, "Yeah, why are no price listed?" Mom says, "We don't charge by what you eat, we charge by your attitude." Everyone choked up, wine snorting, food spitting, side-splitting laughter at every table. I hope I found just the right sub for my story. It is quite short, but I still don't know how to feel about it. I work as a teacher in Russia. Last year I worked in a public school. I had 25 lessons a week and also I had a large group of 27 children. I was their homeroom teacher. In November one of our teachers left the school, so I had 9 more lessons a week till June. I also had to collect all kinds of documents for the kids to take part in their final exams. Basically, homeroom teacher in Russia is a secretary. If the vice principal needs any information, any at all, chosen exams, telephone number, parents' names, they would call me. No need to say, I was extremely tired of that. I knew that the following year I would have 31 lessons a week. So, after I took my summer vacation, I found a new job. I came to my school, signed the document that I wouldn't work for them the next year. In August, 3 weeks before my official end of work, but still at my holidays, I had a call from vice principal. She said she was sorry I decided to leave but I still had to finish some work. I had to do it in September, but as I was leaving, she said she needed the information now. She wanted me to call to all my 27 students and ask them all the information about their colleges, the profession, the name of university, all in all about 8 different pieces about every student. Honestly, I said I'd do it. But the next day I realized that I was still on my holidays and had every right to do nothing. And that's what I did. She and the other vice principal kept calling me every day for 2 weeks. I ignored all the calls, I had holidays. All I wanted to say is I don't work here, lady. So as you all know, today is Mother's Day. I was flower shopping to find flowers for my recently deceased grandmother's grave. My mother didn't like the flowers in a planter and asked me to take them back outside. Being a good boy, I obey without question. While I am outside, a car pulls up in the parking lot, and a lady rolls her window down. Her exact words were, "Excuse me sir, what kind of flowers are in those yellow pots over there?" I responded, "They do not say." She says to me, "Pick me one with only one withered flower but a lot of blossoms. Does this one work?" The lady says yes and then proceeds to give me her credit card and ask me to buy it for her. Remember, she was in her car and this is at Kroger's. Now I am a good kid and all, so I then went and bought it, got the receipt and gave her the flower in the card. Weirdest thing that has ever happened to me. I wasn't wearing anything remotely close to a Kroger uniform. Disclaimer, this is not my story but my friend's story, so I don't have dialogue, but the story doesn't really need it. So, my friend's family has a house that is on one street, but their backyard goes all the way back to the street behind them, and someone from New York decided to build a summer home where my friend's lawn was. Because the house he was building had a lawn smaller than the brain of a jellyfish, this idiot put some of his tools and supplies, as well as a roof truss, in my friend's yard. First mistake. Thinking that he didn't realize it was my friend's family's lawn was theirs, they went and confronted him. He basically said, "What are you gonna do about it?" and to go away. Second mistake. Now, This guy still left the tools on their property, so they could throw it in the road or something, but no. They built a fence around their yard, with the tools still in it. The next day they get a knock on the door, and the guy walks up with an embarrassed face asking for his stuff back. Now they weren't heartless, and gave him his stuff back, but they got the pleasure after seeing the look on his face. Right out of the gate I want to say it was an accident. She's a female cat, but I'll refer to her as it to avoid pronoun confusion with my wife. My wife has a cat that she has had since long before we met. I'm a dog person. I don't hate cats, but I don't love them either. We have a strictly professional relationship. I don't bother it, and it doesn't bother me. However, for the last month it has been having stomach issues and smells terrible. Like, real bad. So whenever I see it laying on my clothes or blankets I shoo it away so my stuff doesn't smell. My wife doesn't like this because she thinks I'm being mean when it can't help being sick. Fast forward to today. I was sitting at the kitchen table working on something when it bumped against my shin real hard and sudden, like cats often do. I'm a naturally jumpy person and it genuinely gave me a fright, so in a literal knee-jerk reaction I stiffened my leg and punted it a couple feet across the kitchen. My wife saw this and was immediately angry with me. I tried to explain what happened, but given me and the cat's relationship lately she thinks it was intentional. She has been giving me the cold shoulder all night because she thinks I kick it around all the time and this is just the first time she's caught me. DL, Doctor, my wife's cat spooked me and I accidentally kicked it a couple feet and now she thinks I do it all the time when she's not looking. I am kinda upset about this Mother's Day ordeal. I'm a broke high school kid. My stepmom and I don't have the best relationship, but I still wanted to do something nice for her for Mother's Day, because she is technically my mother. So this morning I went out and picked her a bunch of yellow wildflowers. They are some of my favorites, and I couldn't afford roses. I made her a cute beaded bracelet that said Mom and wrapped it around the stems. When I gave them to her, she was like, "Oh, these are the weeds that grow on the sides of the highway. Thanks." FYI, these weeds were from the edge of a cornfield in this really pretty secret flower field I know of. I spent quite a while picking them. It was a pretty big bunch. I think they are very pretty emo. It made me a bit upset, not going to lie. I asked her what else she wanted. She said I could have just went to the store and that I didn't have to go through all the trouble to pick weeds. So, I went to the store, bought a bow and picked more weeds. I've wrapped the bow around the stems and put them in a cute vase I bought. I just now got back in the car and wrapped the flowers up. Let's see how this goes. Edit, she didn't look at me when I walked in, so I put them on the counter. About 5 minutes ago she came into my room with the most forced smile on her face. She said, "I really appreciate you picking the flowers, but you really did not have to. I don't really need these, but thanks anyways." I think it's a mission well accomplished. See. Happy Mother's Day. I had to go for groceries today. I went to my local Mart of the Wall, hoping it would be nearly empty at 9 a.m. The lot was full but the grocery side was fairly empty. I got what I needed, which was a cart full because I haven't left my house in 2 weeks due to getting over the flu. Also, I am disabled, which will come into play. I go to check out and I had 4 bottles of hand sanitizer, not for me but to donate. I asked if there was a limit because there was no sign anywhere near the display. The cashier asked the supervisor and my God, she shouted that there was a limit of 1. Okay, uncalled for but whatever. I finished checking out and I was beyond exhausted by this point, and I told the cashier I needed help to my car. She told the supervisor. She made every darn excuse and the book ending with "it would be at least 20 minutes." I raised my voice and said, "I need help, I'm disabled and I can't get this in my car." Just like magic a young guy appeared to help me. As we are walking to the door, every single cashier made a comment to him about where he was going, what he was doing, and on and on. Every single one. Now that I wrote this, I think I'm calling the store to complain. I don't appear disabled, but I am. I have a permanent disabled parking tag. I don't play the disabled card, but FFS, if I need help I ask for it. I'll be darned if that woman thinks she shamed me. Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his 2 sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick, he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, and I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again. I live in Georgia, so our restaurant opened back up almost 2 weeks ago now. Business has been incredibly slow as expected, but it means I can give my tables extra attention. Had a table of 5 women today. They were a bit difficult but nothing I couldn't deal with. Once they finished I brought Dogo drinks, some boxes, split the checks and dropped them off with my usual no rush deal. They were all chatting so I stepped into the back to ask my manager about next week's schedule and about 5 minutes later walked back out to check on them and my other tables and they were gone. Left their drinks and boxes on the table but took their checks. Total bill was over 100, thankfully I have amazing management who didn't blame me, and just comped the food and moved on. Cannot believe grown women thinks that's okay. My mom was a Kavina. I didn't even know there was a name for her. A few of my favorites, I had this double-ended lip balm, marked daytime and nighttime. She picked it up once and said, "Your lips know when it's nighttime?" Another time, I had to ask her to confirm something because my sister didn't believe me. "Hey mom. Isn't it true that my pediatrician wanted to give me human growth hormone to help me get taller, but you said no?" "Mom, yes." "My sister, why would you say no? I don't understand." "Mom, I didn't want a regular person. I wanted a little person." For the record, I did grow a little bit. I'm 4 feet 10 inches or 11. And last, I came into the kitchen and heard her tell my dog she wouldn't make him a sandwich, but she would make him some cinnamon toast. So right before lockdown happened, something bad happened in my life and I went back to smoking cigarettes because I didn't have anyone to hug. Fast forward 2 months, and I'm still doing this, but now it's gotten nice outside and I find myself hanging out on my porch for longer periods of time reading while I smoke and then just sitting there. With spring comes bugs. And so, a few flying insects were hanging around me as I smoked in the last light of day, no porch light. And then it happened. One landed on my arm. Rather than just shaking my arm as I had the last 4 times it had landed, I decided to burn it or at least see if the heat of the cigarette would make it fly off faster. And then I hiccuped and not only missed the darn bug, but put the thing out against my forearm. No more cigs for me tonight. DL, doctor, don't put a burning cigarette near your arm when you have the hiccups. Also, bugs suck. This happened about an hour ago. I am coping by stress eating my leftover wedding cake. Background: I am a dog lover. I love dogs. I am also very sensitive to other people's problems. As a result, I am especially alert to the possibility of lost animals. I live in fear that my dog will get out of our house somehow and get lost and not come home, so I am always on the lookout for lost animals. So far I've returned 2 lost dogs to their owners, both of whom were super grateful. I was driving back to my in-laws with my new husband after signing my marriage license 6 feet away from our officiant. We were both completely exhausted, having had a tiny but nice wedding yesterday. I've had a migraine all day, and was excited to get home and nap. As we were nearing their house, I saw a black pit mix, similar to my own dog, that looked a bit out of place in a parking lot that didn't have any people in it. I turned around, and my husband and I drove back past where the dog was. No dog. So we kept driving, turned back around to keep going home, and I saw the dog in a different yard. I stopped because I wanted to check if she was lost. I approached sideways and called to her. She was shaking, and sat on me as I kneeled down to her. I checked her tag, found that the street address wasn't near where we were, and called the number. They didn't answer, and my phone died. I called my husband out of the car and had him call the number, still no answer. Finally, we called the microchip company for this dog. They also didn't have a response. The dog was still shaking and wouldn't heal, so I just sat on the ground with her in my lap. My fiancée got our dog's leash from the car, and we leashed her and kept on hold with the microchip company. In the meantime, a man came out of the house. "Can I help you?" he said. "I'm sorry, we found a lost dog on your lawn." I called back. "She's ours," he said. I immediately unclipped her collar from my leash and apologized profusely. My husband was dying trying not to laugh. He explained that he owns multiple houses and the dog roams the area around them, because he has a fancy GPS collar for her. And that is why I can no longer run near my in-laws' house, for fear of running into the man whose dog I tried to kidnap. DL, doctor, tried to kidnap a dog from a very rich man's neighborhood, can no longer jog nearby in-laws ever again. My husband called me his wife for the first time though, so I got that going for me, which is nice. I am 14. I am a certified referee in my state. I know the rules as I've played by them my whole life along with taking the officiating classes. At our park district, no headers for ages below 11. But in U12, it is up to the referee's discretion. So if it's a small tap it's okay. That is exactly what happens. So the coach behind me screams at the top of his lungs there are no headers in U12 5 to 16 times. I ignore him. Though I could eject him. It was last game of the season and I didn't care. After a bit of yelling, he says fine, go duck yourself then, which I turn and tell at him for saying in front of U11 kids. I wish I sent him away or ended the match. Sadly I didn't do much and my partner is a longtime referee, officiated my matches as I grew up, and he is deaf. So he has no idea what happened. The person who runs Park District in my area has been informed and is taking action. So proud. My parents live in a state that has opened up to table service, albeit with restrictions as there should be. Long story short, Dad took Mom out, with a reservation, for a Mother's Day celebration. Being in the industry, I asked about the experience considering COVID-19. They had a great experience. Only the risos were allowed in the restaurant and spaced out. There was one server whom they said was amazing. To Dad, what did you tip? 100%. 140 on 140. My parents aren't rich but I think I taught them well. Peas. Crying of pride as I type. They do know to normally tip 20%. I work at a family-owned Tex-Mex style restaurant. With the COVID-19 pandemic we've turned the front of the restaurant into a makeshift drive-thru and for the most part it has been pretty successful and uneventful. Alongside this our state/county government, not sure which one, has allowed us to serve margaritas and bottled beer Togo. Tonight someone drove up to our tent and I was standing in the doorway and asked if they were picking up or placing an order. They said they were placing so I pulled up my mask and walked closer to their car and immediately I could tell the person in the passenger seat was filming me. They weren't subtle about it and I got super uncomfortable when talking to them and I couldn't really keep up the customer service act. The guy driving started asking me all these questions about our Togo beers and I tried to help him out but I was just so uncomfortable about them obviously recording me that I played dumb to get back inside the restaurant and tell my manager. She didn't do anything about it or say anything to them so I just wrapped up the purchase as fast as possible. I ID'd him, ran his card and tried to answer his questions without being too awkward but it was really hard to do with a camera in my face. He ended up buying a single beer and then leaving and I watched them drive off and record me in the restaurant as they did. He didn't even care what beer he got and was super weird about the whole purchase. I'm not exactly sure what they were trying to do. The restaurant is legally allowed to be selling alcohol Togo but the whole thing felt super off like they were trying to expose us for something. I'm a pretty tall guy, but something about that whole interaction made me feel super uncomfortable and small. So a little backstory, my boyfriend and I have been dating for roughly 6 months, we both still live at home and I'm often at his house. As two consenting adults do, we get frisky, and with that comes some personal items I leave in his room in a secure place. Well, one of those was my thong that got dirty and he very nicely offered to wash it, as he usually does his own laundry. Keyword, usually. Well, today I get this text, so my mom ended up doing my laundry for some reason. Nice G-string. His mother decided on Mother's Day of all days to wash his clothes for him and found my thong. Thank you, universe, I'll never be able to look that women in the eyes again. He tried to downplay it by saying it was funny and not to be dramatic, but oh my good lord. I'm mortified. It's not a surprise we are having sex, but did she need to see that extent of our sex life? DL, Doctor, boyfriend's mother decided to wash his clothes for him after he failed to do so and found my thong. First off, happy Mother's Day to all the mamas on here. I hope you're finding yourself well in this whole situation. Second off, while I'm not a mom, I can't tell you how amazing it is to not be working today. Last year I worked from 10 a.m. till 11 p.m., but this year there's no fresh out of church crowd with the verbal tips, there's no angry guests who just waited 2 hours for a table, and there's no frustration of looking for my table's pancakes that would have had a 40-minute ticket time. It's just nice. Regardless of our circumstances, it is just so amazing to not be working today. It's just so darn nice. I've never bought flowers for anyone, so last night I decided to go to Walmart to buy some for my mom and girlfriend for Mother's Day. I went in and saw some flowers immediately that had a bow on them and they had a million different colors. I was thinking to myself, those look great. So I picked out purple ones for my girl and red ones for my mom. I arrived to my girlfriend's house and she doesn't know anything about them. I was planning on a surprise. I had written a note on them and thought it was adorable. She opens the door and I reach out behind the chair to grab the flowers and give them to her as she's getting in the car. Then she just starts laughing and says, "You got me cemetery flowers?" I was too embarrassed to even do anything, so I just left and she never even read the note. I don't know what to do with my flowers anymore. I don't think I can return them as I took the tags off and now I don't have a girlfriend. I really don't know if anyone else has ever done this before and I feel like a complete dumbass, but the intentions were supposed to be good. DL, drive. Bought cemetery flowers for my mom and girlfriend. Girlfriend calls me a dumbass and leaves. Now stuck with 2 cemetery bouquets. Not me, but witnessed my bar manager go through this. Customer, excuse me, I've been waiting ages and you served everyone except me. Bar manager, I'm sorry love, what do you want? C, I'm not your love. Stares. BM, I'm sorry, can I get you anything? C, I think it's awful how you ignore customers who have been waiting for so long. BM, I didn't realize you had been waiting so long, what can I get you? C, well, I think this is awful, 5 people must have come after me and been served. BM, I apologize again, I'll get you your drinks now, what would you like? C, for free? BM, sorry, I can't do them for free. C, why not? I've had to wait for so long, it's the least you can do. BM, I don't think it works like that, do you want any drinks or not? C, of course I do, why do you think I was waiting at the bar? But I don't think I should have to pay. BM, you can either buy a drink or stand away from the bar, I'm afraid, that's all we can offer. C, fine. But I don't want you to serve me. BM, why not? C, because you're incompetent, you don't know what you're doing. BM, well, everyone else here didn't serve you fast enough either, what difference does it make who pours your drinks? C, well, I've just said, anyone but you. Now get somebody else. BM, well, the other staff are busy mixing drinks, so you'll have to wait if you want them. C, are you kidding? Flip you. BM, flip me? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Commence ranting and shouting, followed by the bouncer escorting her out. Old people, yeah, I understand I shouldn't be out, but these flowers and my 1 bag of mulch are something that are essential to my survival. Everyone wearing sunglasses, I can't see the pin pad screen, the glare is so bad, turn the brightness up. Ma'am, I can't do, where's the no cash back button? Teens, where's your Mother's Day flowers? Garden center has flowers pretty much everywhere, brother. Points to nearest flowers, oh okay thanks. Recently switched from checks/cash to card with a chip, when I slide it, it doesn't work. What's wrong with it? That is a chip card and we have a chip reader, see? Oh okay, can you do it? Sure. Where did common sense ever go? Skeptical. Edit, no hate intended, haha, just for comedy / to make a point purposes. Before I start, this isn't a pity me story, I'm fine. I want to share this because it was ridiculous. I'd met this guy, let's call him DG for delusional guy. I was 16 at the time, he seemed alright, and back then I didn't see the red flags as red flags. So naturally when he started opening up to me about his abusive ex-girlfriends and how he was such a nice guy and they took advantage of it, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Boy, was I wrong. Fast forward to a year later, DG asks me out and I say yes. Over the course of 2 years, he started creating problems where there weren't any, all the time. He was always the poor victim, I was always wrong. Eventually it got to a point where he'd get mad for anything that didn't involve paying attention to him exclusively. Including sleeping. Always twisting it to make it look like it was the worst crime ever committed. He'd compare me a lot with his ex, let's call her Girl. Girl had supposedly tried to contact him again, but he didn't want anything to do with her because she was toxic and she cheated on him. Here's an example of him getting mad at me for problems he created himself. Once he sent me a random nude and I didn't want to anger him, so I reacted positively. And it became all about how he was a nice guy and I was treating him like a sex object. Few weeks later he sent me another nude, and since I didn't want to make him feel like a sex object I stayed neutral about it. And of course I was still a monster because I was making him feel unattractive and insecure. There was just no winning with him. I found a job in a fast food restaurant a couple years ago and I broke up with him shortly after since I was seeing normal humans again, and of course I could suddenly see the entire relationship was far from normal. Not only that, but I found out Girl hadn't cheated on DG. He had cheated on her. She dumped him and he tried to get her back throughout our entire relationship. So much for not wanting to do anything with her, and she's trying so hard to contact me. He was also actively cheating on me with another girl. After I dumped him, he begged me to give him a chance, but I said no. So he sent me a million texts whining about how he was such a nice guy again and he still cared even after how I treated him and I was a piece of shit. I just blocked him and refused to see him, so he started sending his friends. He is still in complete denial, and by now I'm probably another evil toxic ex who broke his heart in his feel-bad stories for his next girl. This actually happened about 2 years ago, but I still think about it sometimes and it makes me laugh so hard. I was on a double date. It's important to note it was also a first date with my best friends, her fiancés and her fiancé friend. We went bowling and I have bigger than average feet. Size 10, which isn't uncommon, but I'm relatively tiny so my feet can stand out in the right conditions. So we have our double date and we go to return our bowling shoes. I finished taking my shoes off first, so I go to return mine. As I approach the front desk I see a police officer and the bowling alley clerk. I hand my shoes over when the police officer says, "Whoa, size 10? You got big feet." Ha ha ha. I look over at the police officer and I was so shocked by how rude he was I just said, "Oh." He replies, "I'm kidding. I know those aren't yours, they're his." Ha ha, points to the guy I was on a date with. I just stood there looking at him for a moment and I cried out, "They're mine." The police officer looked absolutely mortified and apologized to me. In which case I said it was okay. However, after telling my current boyfriend this story today, felt bad. That poor office probably still feels bad to this day. TL, Dr. Tifu by embarrassing a cop because he thought my bowling shoes were my date's shoes. Resulting in me now knowing he feels guilty. I'm disgusted by the restaurant chain that I got furloughed from. Pre-shutdown, at several of the meetings, it was common for the managers to point out that they were nearly $1 billion company. They furloughed most of their workers and accepted tens of millions of dollars that was intended to keep small businesses afloat. Companies like Shake Shack were offered these bailouts but gave them back because it's shameful to accept it when you know it's not going to the right place. Check whether your restaurant is accepting money that is not meant for them. Check to see if they are doing ethical things during COVID-19. This refers to the level of greed as well as the level to which they try to keep guests and employees safe from the virus, and if there is any kind of an issue here, seriously consider trying to work for a better restaurant when things open up again. DLDR, thousands of shop-level employees got laid off based on a computer algorithm the corporate office designed that doesn't factor in seniority and gives preference to certain employees. Store managers and corporate office employees were not affected at all by these layoffs. Please feel free to ask me any questions, I have lots of free time now. And #X200B. I work at it at Take 5 Oil Change, same thing as Jiffy Lube, for 5 years and was terminated yesterday along with 1,000 other lube techs. All the stores only have 1 to 3 people working there now. Nobody at the corporate level got let go, all the store managers are still working, and the rest was left up to a computer algorithm. I took pictures of our company's organizational charts in ADP before they locked me out, showing that corporate employees were not affected at all. The regional manager, who is in charge of over 60 stores, actually said that corporate's computers picked which assistant managers and lube techs would stay and which ones would be terminated with preference given to some assistant managers. I have no say in the matter. Apparently experience wasn't a factor in this algorithm. Lube techs who had worked there for more than 20 years got laid off while some techs who just started last year are still being employed. In the letter they sent out to everyone, they stated that all employees terminated will be considered for rehire subject to work history. They aren't even guaranteeing their jobs back, they're basically telling us we need to fill out an application again and hope for a callback. Does this seem pretty messed up or is it just me? How can a company lay off people so easily without care? It sounds like they are using the current events as an opportunity to clean house and start fresh with new people once things settle down. I can't imagine a company anywhere that lets a computer tell them who can stay and who can leave during a layoff. I think what bothers me the most is that I know very well the expendable shop-level employees are only getting laid off so the company can afford to pay the management and corporate employees. They still have 10 employees on payroll making $70-80K a year for unit growth and development. This company is not doing any growing or expanding right now, couldn't they let some of those people go? Thank you for taking the time to read, I just really wanted to vent my frustrations. If what they are doing isn't illegal, then it is certainly the shadiest thing I have ever come across. When I was 17 I used to deliver for a well-known pizza place in the area. Of course Fridays were always insane and this Friday was supposedly going to be the biggest. Halfway through the night I got a deliver to a home for a specialty pie with 5 toppings, the bill came out to $35, pizza was deep dish when given toppings so the price was always jacked up, and was hopping for another good tip to bring my night to about $50. As I'm walking up to the door I can hear them trying to shush their dog. Usually whenever this were to happen it was common courtesy for the customer to come outside to avoid any issues with their dog. Well, they open the door and their 100-pound husky comes bolting out, jumps, bites my arm and then attacks the pizza. Luckily I was okay and very disoriented from the whole situation and wasn't sure what to do since the pizza was all over their front steps. They freaked out and continuously apologized. They informed me that they would call the store and order a new pie and pay for both and tip me extra. However, they sent me on my way without ever paying me. My 17-year-old mind was still messed up from getting attacked by their dog. Getting back to the store I find out they never called and we couldn't find their phone number to contact them. Got bit by their dog and ended up not making anything after it all.